Last seen in Israel, whereabouts unknown. IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu his bail has been revoked as the High Court has ordered his arrest. Which begs the question, what now? A big win for the PDP as Ahmadu Fintiri wins the Adamawa State governorship tussle, and Adams Oshomole, chairman of the ruling APC, says Okorocha's sin is bigger than Amaechi's, so they will be casting a different stone. And this is Plus Politics. I am Mariana Cohn. In the words of the National Publicity Secretary of the APC, Lanre Issa Onilu, I quote, "Whatever has happened in Rivers and whatever Rotimi Amaechi has done is completely normal and acceptable to his party." End of quote. And joining me to look at this in the studio, I have two gentlemen who are going to be discussing this issue. We have Ugo Ikeka joining us, and of course we have a barrister also here to break down this conversation, still discussing politics. Now, I want to thank you gentlemen for joining us in the studio.
Thank you for having us. Some
scenes are bigger than the others. Well, in the sight of the APC, not in the sight of God, because sin is sin. But then there have been calls for the APC to suspend the Minister of Transportation, Right Honorable Rotimi Amaechi, being that some people think that he got involved in anti-party activities, and some other people are saying, well, it was a coalition, there's no issue to it. I'll start with you, Barrister. Do you think that this is an issue at all in the first instance, looking at the procedure or the way that the APC went to bed with the AAC? Do you think there was any anti-party activity?
Thank you. I'm not sure there's much of anti-party activity, if I understand the politics very well. Because except, again, if the minister didn't carry his party along, or there was no understanding between his party leadership and himself. Because I thought what they did was that, given the challenges they had in court, having their own candidate, this was like the AAC agenda was more like a fallback plan, and more like the last option really they had to get back into the game. So I think that's what he basically did. But my only challenge would be if he didn't carry his party leadership along at the national level, because I would have thought that that would have actually been like the game plan of the party, not just of Amaechi.
Well, Ugo, before we heard that the AAC was in bed with the APC did think that they were going to somewhat have a different court, judgment that would somewhat put their names. I mean, they were expecting the kind of miracle that Adamawa State had. So maybe they didn't necessarily have a plan, like he said.
Well, I think first of all, what's happening in APC is just, I think, lack of internal politics, and you are seeing it at play across the whole state, from Zamfara down to Rivers, and in Ogun State we had the same issue. The party has done well in making sure that the choices of their own people, of the leaders of the party, are the ones that come to play at the end of the day. So some of these aggrieved politicians will go all out to go and join a different alliance to get their own candidate in play. But with regards to Amaechi and Okorocha, I'm not a big fan of both of them. But the truth is this: APC tried as much as possible to get River State, like to win in River State, and they couldn't do that, right, because they didn't present any candidate. And what happened is that we all heard that the APC towards the dying minute of the election has made an agreement with the AAC. And the truth is this: AAC does not hold does not have any political structure in Rivers State. So that's number one. It's not going to happen. And Okorocha, comparing what he did to what Amaechi is doing presently, is different. All right, because at the end of the day.
So you agree with the APC saying, well, this sin is different from that sin. Amosun's and Okorocha's is totally different and doesn't warrant a suspension of sorts. It's
totally different because why is different? Like I'm not here to act as their spokesman, but if you look at the analysis, is very clear. In Rivers State, APC does not have any candidate. And as it stands, APC went into that alliance, and Rotimi Amaechi is the leader of APC in Rivers State, went into that alliance with the mind that with military intimidation, with military might by their side, they can be able to intimidate and get the vote for on their side. But in Imo State and in Ogun State, what happened is totally different. We had Dabo Adeshina as the candidate in Ogun State, and we had I think someone else in Imo State, I've forgotten the name. But both the governors in Ogun State and in Imo State had their own candidate independent of the party. And the governors themselves contested for different senatorial seats on the ticket of the party, working against the party's interest. So for them, it's wrong. It's anti-party activities, and I think their party is right in trying much possible to punish them for doing that. So Okorocha trying to put himself and Amaechi on the same pedestal, I think it's just like a baby that have gone out to do something bad and get a little bit of smacking from the parents, and you're trying to say, okay, my younger brother did this thing yesterday, whereas they're not the same thing. All right,
back to you, Barrister Emeka. Let's look at the issue of anti-party activities as opposed to an alliance. Let's define it properly for those who do not understand, because yes, as much as the APC-AAC alliance was impromptu, even though maybe we didn't see an MOU on an agreement of sorts, maybe there was a gentleman's agreement, but let us clearly define what anti-party activities are and what an alliance is.
My understanding of anti-party activity is that it's an activity that it's anti-party, so to speak, which is to say an activity that goes against the interests of the party. So to that extent, if, just like my colleague was saying, the party, for instance, in Ogun State has a candidate, clearly has a candidate, and says this is our candidate, and then someone else or a party leader now says, no, I want my own candidate, irrespective of whatever the party says, then obviously that would suggest an anti-party activity. Same thing with Imo State, where the party says the senator is our candidate, and then the governor comes to say, no, I want my in-law to be the candidate of the party, and if the party doesn't want him, I will use another platform to install him. Obviously, that's an anti-party activity.
Let's talk about, let's look at the fact that now Okorocha and his the other governor have been somewhat suspended, not necessarily ousted by the party, and they're calling for Amaechi to, you know, they want to throw themselves a pity party. Do you think that going forward, whether it be the APC, PDP, everybody would learn from this scenario? Because it's not just about the APC now. There have been people who also had interests outside their parties. Maybe they didn't make it known as much as these former governors, or this, well, still sitting governors did. Do you think that maybe some people should take something away from this, and this might help other parties sit up? Because, I mean, in the case of Rivers State, we had two factions. We had Magnus Abe, who's saying, I want to be governor, and we have Itonye Eko, who people are saying, we don't know you, where did you come from? So I'm asking, will this, one way or the other, help parties across Nigeria somewhat sit up and not play anti-party politics? You think that these interests will always arise? Like
I always say, hope is not a strategy. You don't go into any battle hoping that you win a battle. And there's one thing that is fundamental in human beings, you know, the ability to push for your own interest. All right. So you see, you have the human nature, the human greed, and it plays a critical part in politics. especially in Nigeria, we don't learn from history. So even across the different political parties, what we'll continue to see is something like this. All right. The reason why Amosu and Okrocha was able to do what they did is because they had the state fund at their disposal.
But is this not the case for every sitting either president or governor? Because you wield absolute power, you feel that you are able to do whatever it is, and you would not necessarily be questioned, because up until the Buhari administration, whoever the president is the leader of a party. Up until the APC administration, where we have a party leader that is different from the president. So these people always feel that whatever they do is in the best interest of the party.
The truth is that, for example, let me use Ogun State for example. The truth is that there are different, before the election when we had the party primaries and the rest of them, people forgot something that was critical. The vice president, the Imo Sibanjo from Ogun State, and he had interest in who becomes the next governor of the state. That's an original. A lot of people didn't consider. Dapa Abiodun is close friend, is a close pal, and Dapa Abiodun was his own candidate. The guy that moved to the APM that worked with Amosu was Amosu's candidate. So you had a clash of both. Okay, who is this guy's candidate and who is this guy's candidate? At the end of the day, it was a free and fair game. The candidate of Amosu's candidate lost, and the same thing happened in Imo State. A lot of people within the party structure that had interest. Same way Rochas had interest. We are not happy with Rochas because of his poor governance and some things he has done so far as a governor. So some of these guys pitched their time, I think with Senator Aruma also, to make sure that his son-in-law Uche Nwosu didn't get a ticket. So at the end of the day, it's all about interest. And be you president, be you governor, if your interest does not align with that of others, there is no way you're going to advance. It's when your interests are aligned with that of others that you can make headway. And if not, what you have a divided house that will go to battle, and at the end of the day, someone will lose that.
All right, well, it's a game of numbers. Still discussing party politics. Let's take a look at the PDP. Now, it was victory for the main opposition, PDP, on Thursday as its candidate in Adamawa State governorship tussle, Amadu Fintiri, finally subdued the incumbent Governor Jibrila Bindo of the All Progressive Congress. Now, he won all 44 units in 14 local government areas and 29 registration areas where supplementary election was held in the state. Now, the question is, what does this mean for an Atiku? I'll start with the barrister. What do you think this means? Because already we know that in the National Assembly, we have so many APC members, they outnumber the PDP. But for the governors, what does this mean for the political map for the APC and the PDP, mostly for Atiku?
It's very important for Atiku because that's his state. That's his state because actually all eyes were on that state. If a presidential candidate does not deliver his state, it's a major blow. So, for instance, the president delivered his state, Katsina. So, all eyes were really on...
But this wouldn't be a first. The former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, lost his own polling unit. It wouldn't be a first. It didn't affect the fact that he became president, even though Atiku is not president. But I'm guessing maybe all win now win.
No, but you recall that immediately after the elections, the presidential elections, you see the headlines. So person loses his polling unit. So person. So it's like it's so fundamental. It's the major test of your political clout. You losing your political unit. You losing your polling unit. You losing your local government. You losing your state, and all the way up. So it's so critical for a politician that he delivers and shows that yes, I have my background covered.
Still talking about Atiku, let me come to you, Ugo. I'm just wondering, again, looking at people who lost. Donald Duke lost his polling unit in Calabar, and several others. I think the only person who gloated about his winning, well, that remains debatable. For the likes of Shore, he was very excited that at least he won his polling unit. So again, for Atiku, he didn't win the overall elections. But does this mean, if you are powerful in your state or your local government, does that mean that you are powerful generally? Does that what does it even amount to at the end of the day if you didn't really win the elections?
Well, see, all politics is local. And for any politician that is worth anything, your base is the most important place. The PDP in Adamawa State, during the campaign, Atiku told people in Adamawa State, his supporters in Adamawa State, I'll return Adamawa to PDP. And he delivered that. Fintri used to be the former speaker in Adamawa State. It's a good one for him, all right? We're not going to take out the fact that I think this has, we have to give Atiku the credit, all right, because it's a leading political party from Adamawa State, but also the people, all right? I think if the governor in Adamawa State has performed well, people won't have had any need to take him out, all right? So because he didn't do his job very well, and now Fintri has taken over. At least for Atiku, it's a good one for him. At least he knows that his base is still secured. But with regards to what's going to happen in the National Assembly, the truth is that the APC would never. It's a game of interest. The APC definitely there's still going to be issues in their camp, and they're still going to unravel, and they cannot decide who is going to be everything in the National Assembly. You know why? The same way like in Adamawa State, all right. PDP has won and every other thing. Hopefully they're going to be happy and they'll go on and celebrate and do whatever they need to do. But at the end of the day, politics is about interest. It's about interest. And if you're going to be successful at it, you have to know how to marry both interests, cut these across all boards so that you can advance their central objective.
Let's look at the man, Fintiri himself, Amadou Fintiri. Let's look at the margin. He won with 376,552 votes. And the APC, who was coming right behind him, Bindo, had 336,386 votes. And of course, the ADC with Nyako with 113,000 votes, 237. Now, like you earlier mentioned, he was the Speaker of the House of Assembly in Adamawa State in 2014. He also served as acting governor in July 2014 after the impeachment of the then governor, Murtala Nyako. So let's look at the man himself and how fit he is to run that office, since he's had maybe a few days in office as an acting governor, and of course as a member of the House of Assembly. How ready do you think he is for the role? I'll start with you, Barrister.
No, I think he should be ready. As a former speaker, he is obviously grounded now in the legislative aspect of governance. Then coming into the executive part, probably the only thing he's missing will be the judiciary. So definitely with that kind of background, I think he's competent. He should be competent to actually deliver the goods.
With the struggle and the tussle, the fact that people came out again for the supplementary to make sure, in fact, for PDP to win Adamawa State, of course, the people are looking forward to having better government. Can he really deliver? Does he really have a track record of a man who has stuck to his words? Because it's okay to run on the platform of a party, but then the testing of who you really are is when you step into office.
Well, I think, like you rightly said, for someone that had a legislative background already, you were the former speaker, it shows that within his constituency, within the constituency, the people that represent, maybe he had done something good over a long period of time for him to do this. And working with Atiku is the largest employer in Adamawa State because of his various business interests. So he should understand that the most important thing for them in that state right now is to make sure that they enact policies that will push more private sector investment as well. There are issues of conflict across the state. If he can, as a leader, manage those conflicts, work with the various security agencies to make sure that Boko Haram and all the insurgency within the Northeast does not have a place in Adamawa, I think it's fine. Already you have big schools like the AU and Yola that brings a lot of money into that state. So it's just for him to see, okay, how can I manage the conflict within the state? How can I make sure that life is more better for my people? Because if he can do that, I don't think the people in Adamawa State are asking for much, right? So it just depends on him. Is he ready to do that? If he's not ready to do that, but he needs to understand that Bindo was removed. So it's not like he won't be the first. He won't be the first.
All right. Well, we'll take a quick a view of something that happened in Adamawa State. Of course, the big win people were celebrating, and what the governor-elect had to say about his win.
That Umaru Amadu of PDP, having satisfied the requirements of the law and scored the highest number of votes is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
I'm also using this medium to call on all Adamawa people to come together in unity of purpose and put behind us the spiteful campaigns that were characterized by fake news.
We actually apply and then obtain the processes and the judgments of the court, study them thoroughly, and actually consider the next line of action.
You said your party logo did not appear in the ballot paper, and yet you did not tender the ballot paper before the court to see as to whether it is true or not.
There are several avenues available, several. We shall advise our clients on all the avenues and the implications, and in the coming days, we shall see.
So that was what transpired just before the supplementary elections, because the court, the APC went to court on this issue, saying they wanted to not allow the supplementary elections to take place, but unfortunately for them, it did take place. At first, the APC had said they were not going to partake, they were not going to participate in the elections, but then after they had a change of heart and finally decided to, they made statements like, oh, it's a working day, people will be disenfranchised, but it seemed like the people of Adamawa were very serious about the elections and they did show up. What does this say about the judiciary, especially now that we're going to be seeing a lot of court cases, you know, especially the elections tribunal, and people still coming to say, you didn't win, I won. And the presidency has a lot to deal with also.
Yeah, that's good for us as lawyers. But talking seriously, we were worried when we were getting some of these orders from courts that, you know, is trying to stop the process. We were actually worried because the Electoral Act is very clear on the role of the regular courts in election matters. They really don't have much role when once the process kicks in, you know. So the attempt to stop the process was quite worrisome. And thankfully, the courts have retraced their steps and allowed the process to go. Now, of course, those who feel agitated about the results, they are free to go to the tribunal, which is the proper jurisdiction or the proper forum to ventilate whatever grievances they may have. And
that will be it. Well, we want to say thank you very much to Gochukwu Ikeako for speaking with us on this segment, and also Barrister Emeka Nwadioke for speaking with us. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about Nnamdi Kanu's revoked bail. Stay with us. Still plus politics. Nnamdi Kanu is a wanted man in Nigeria. Federal High Court ruled that the trial must continue and directed that a fresh date for the continuation should be given by parties so that the matter will continue in Kanu's absence. Now, how will that work? Joining me are people who know better than I do, because this is their forte. Emeka Nwadioke is still back with us in the studio, and we have joining us freshly Barrister Obi Ajengwa. It's good to have you.
Good to be here.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. So let's start with the issue of Nnamdi Kanu. Now, the court issued a bench warrant for him avoiding trial. First things first. Justice Binta Nyako ordered the immediate arrest of Kanu by the IG. He was also held, you know, for treasonable felony. There was a charge that was, according to what I started with, will be held in his absence. But how do you have a case in absentia? I don't know how that works. Never been to a courtroom before. So explain to us, layman, in layman terms, how does Justice Binta Nyako hope to do this? Barrister Obi, why are you looking at him? You start first. How will this work?
The trial will go on. The witnesses will be called. But in his own absence, he will not have a room to rebut what the witnesses have said.
Oh, so this would be not necessarily in his favor, because he will be losing more, because anything that is said, he cannot actually say, no, that's a lie, I didn't say that.
He cannot say that.
So no fair hearing.
But we want to know if his lawyer will be present.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely his lawyer will be there. But obviously the advantage he would have probably added would be if he were there and someone was lying, he would have maybe told his lawyer, no, this didn't happen, this was what happened and all that. That's probably the only advantage that he may have had. But ordinary or otherwise, there's really not much, really, much value. Even his presence will add.
So it doesn't change anything?
Not much.
But sorry, one question that I was thinking of. Ordering the bench warrant, couldn't they have availed the use of Interpol?
I'm about to come to that. Let's talk about some of his crimes, adding to his felony charge. There's been countless failure of him to appear to court. Since April 25, 2017, to face his trial, the justice condemned his failure to show up. In fact, his lead counsel was unable to give reasons why he disappeared and did not show up in court. Again, I hear that he also failed to show up in court as the second time. The court noted that 3 persons who were his guarantors, whose surety I cannot forget, could not also account. In fact, they applied to be unsuretyed, if there's any such word, because they also did not know where he was. They could not account for his whereabouts. In April 2017, Nyako actually granted him bail based on health grounds. In fact, she said, I think she was sounding regretful because she said she thought he was really sick and he needed, to take some time away because the kind of help and care that she thought he needed, he couldn't find in, the prison walls. That's why she let him go. But then, I remember that year, he was banned from any interviews. He was banned from being in any group that is more than 10. He was not allowed to be in rallies or attend social functions. But we did see him do that. So again, it makes me wonder, how powerful is the court? How powerful is our laws? Have we been playing with kids' gloves on this issue? Hence the reason why this man is or was spotted in Israel. And when you say all of these things, you list all of these things, does it cover a travel ban? Because if it did, then the man's passport should have been seized.
His passport should have been seized. The passport should have been in the possession of the court. But let's ask you, how many passports does he have?
Interesting.
If he had a British passport and a Nigerian passport, he would have kept his Nigerian passport and held on to his British passport. And also, if he's a citizen of a country and there's danger, he could apply for
asylum.
No, he could apply for. He can travel to England without a passport, and at the airport. But he did not go to England, he went to Israel.
Israel, of all places. So one would wonder, if these statements are made in court, why are they not followed? Because you brought up the issue of Interpol. A man cannot leave a country if he has felony charges, especially if he's seen as an enemy of the state.
There's something I've been canvassing. Sorry, was it me?
Well, it's okay, you can talk, okay. Then the barrister will join.
Sorry, there's something I've been canvassing. If they can have a system, people that are standing trial should be put into a system, maybe a computer. They should have a data.
Well, with the customs or the immigrations,
and it should be at the exit points, so that once your passport, your name comes up, you're banned. But it hasn't been. I
mean, that can't. I don't know if it, no, we don't have a database that can handle that, do we?
I think we have those things. I'm not sure that Nnamdi Kanu went through our airports to leave this country. Obviously, he didn't. Obviously, he didn't.
Well, according to Justice Nyako, she's saying that someone. In fact, it's not Nyako. There were people who thought that, based on the attack on his residence in Umuahia, we remember that story. It was blown out of proportion in September of 2017. After that, then his whereabouts became unknown. In fact, there was this story in the news that the army had abducted him and killed him. So for a long time, people thought that Nnamdi Kanu was dead.
Yes. Actually, the case is a bit complicated. We must concede because the court granted him bail. The terms were maybe a bit onerous because when you tell a defendant not to appear in a group of 10
More
and
than
all
10.
that, there are constitutional safeguards, right to association, freedom of association and all that. So it's also about when you give bail, there's also something about bail not being excessive or onerous. You can give with one hand and take with another hand. So there are fundamental issues with those terms, the terms of that bill. Maybe.
So could it be that Nnamdi Kanu had exploited those loopholes in that particular judgment or in the statement that was given by Justice Nyako?
Not specifically about exploiting those terms, really. I think the major issue was the invasion of his residence by the military.
Alleged invasion.
Alleged, I think they essentially conceded that there was invasion, but the issue was maybe whether he escaped.
The army said that he was not in his home at the time they were there. It was just his father.
Very well. Very well. But, the fact also is that if someone is already before the court, that invasion, a lot of people thought was entirely unnecessary, except maybe you have, what do you call it, a hint or, that.
A tip-off.
Yes, a tip-off that is amassing some kind of massive arsenal and all that. But really, a lot of people felt that IPOB doesn't really have that, the capacity, or what is basically young people, going into the streets and making noise and getting killed and all that. So
I'm sorry.
I don't think.
Is this really, because this case is not against IPOB?
Yes.
The case is about a man
Yes.
who we all heard on some rogue radio spreading hate. So it is not against the group per se, because they're not armed. They really wouldn't be causing any trouble. Yes, they protested, but of course, everybody has a right to protest. It is about what the man said and what it did to people.
Medium.
Yes, so again, let's not get it lost in translation. If the court is saying this man is a time bomb and we need him locked away, and somebody gets a tip-off that he probably is planning to run away, maybe, I'm not holding brief for the army, maybe that could have been the reason why his home was ransacked.
Do you know Nnamdi Kanu has a good defense? Threat to life.
If you were to take that to court?
If you were to take that to court. He has a good defense. Look at the strength, the sheer strength of the army that invaded his neighborhood. And stories about people being killed, and the sheer fury that they used to invade his house. Any sane person will run for cover, because you don't know if they catch you, what they will do to you. So he has defense. He's not safe. He's not safe. He's not safe anymore in his locality. I will not say in Nigeria, but in his locality, which is where he was confined to.
So let's go back to this case, because I'm wondering if at the end of the day, this case goes on, because now Justice Nyako has said the case will go on. Whatever is passed at the end of the day, and I mean, it's a case that will be ongoing. We really can't comment on it. But if he's sentenced, we still have a problem of not being able to get the man to court. And what happens to his shorties? Let's not forget, he still has shorties who are begging that they be released from, this. I'm wondering again, I might be sounding a bit funny, but did they not think that this would happen before they shortied for the man?
That's also what.
And what are the things you should consider before you sign a surety for whoever it is?
We must, like I was saying, we must. The fact remains that this is essentially a political trial.
Is it?
Yes. However you look at it, it's fundamentally a political trial.
Why do you think so?
Now, because Nnamdi Kanu today, a lot of Western countries will consider him a political detainee if he were to be in detention because like I was saying, you know, there are so many dimensions as regards the indigenous people's rights, you know, that he's canvassing for, you know, then because the federal government is also charging him of terrorism, you know, like waging a war against the state, you know. Was he really doing that? Did he have capacity to wage war? Like I was saying, if you call young kids into the street, at the end of the day, it will boil down to, do you have capacity to deliver on? A lot of people don't probably align with the rhetoric. Some of the rhetoric that he was dishing out. Obviously, some people were worried. But, you know, when you come to brass tacks, yes, Nnamdi Kanu could be tried in absentia. The Administration of Criminal Justice Act, Section 369, guarantees that, subsection 4. If you consider yourself as a nuisance in court, and maybe like in this case where he couldn't be found, you know, he definitely could be tried in absentia. The trial will proceed to conclusion. He will be, you know, convicted. But the sentencing is what he must be present to be sentenced. That's what the law says.
Could Nnamdi Kanu's situation be compared to what Spain is doing to some activists or some leaders who decided that they also wanted to be a state of their own? So one was in exile in, I can't remember the country. But because you're painting a different picture now, that, oh, he's a political, you know, this is all political. But I'm still trying to understand what political would be when you call people baboons and call a place a jungle and all of that. That is hate crime, and this is one of the things that we're fighting against in the country, especially with the fact that we are already divided along religious and ethnic lines. Should you be shooting or throwing stones onto a glass house?
I don't see him as a political leader, for reasons best known to me. But what I'm looking at is the criminality of what he did. There are better ways of asking for a state, and you don't need to carve out Biafra from Nigeria. Maybe it stems from my view that I believe so much in the Nigerian dream. The only thing you ask for is use the people you have. You have a lot of people for you. Align them to a party and give them instructions. This is what we want you people to do when you get to Abuja. And see that those people that you're aligning with gets elected through your sheer size of the people you have. And then when they get to Abuja, they start working. That's how you can get the change.
So you're saying this strife should be about more fair representation of the people in that enclave or the people in that region. You think that maybe he lost the plot halfway? I
think he lost the plot. Every time I saw him on TV screaming, I said, God, how I wish I could talk to this man. You have a major asset, which most politicians don't have. He has a court-like fellowship, which if he had used well, these elections, he would have gotten his people into position. And then you now talk, Oga, you're going to governor's meeting. Please table this. Let them do this for us. Let them do this for us. Let them do this for us. You get the change you want. You don't have to sacrifice people's lives. That's my own grasp with him. So whether he's a political, believe you me, the elite of the Igbos, I'm not sure most of them support him. It is just the youths that are supporting him. That's my take. I don't know what my...
Do you agree with her? Do you think that the elitists think differently and that maybe his strategy, maybe from the onset, his strategy was to give the Igbo-speaking part of the country fair hearing or more representation and ask for more things to be done for them? But then he went a different route, or you still think that he was, this is all political, somebody somewhere hates him?
I think Nnamdi Kanu is, from some of the things I've read and things about, I think he's basically a fundamentalist. He believes strongly in what he's pushing. And I know that some who have tried to convince him to go the other route, he's probably not listening much to them from some of the
Should one of the qualities of a fundamentalist be separationist movements or hate crime?
That's part of what we said. Like I said earlier, some of us don't support the strategy. You know, the goal is one thing, the strategy getting to the goal is another thing. And like my colleague said, you know, some of the elites, we are not really so supportive of maybe calling youths out and getting them shot and things like that. You want to think that there could be other ways. A life lost is you know, is so saddening. So obviously no one will support such, even though some would say yes, you have to make such sacrifices before. But we believe there could actually be better ways, you know, other ways of getting to the same goal. And like I said, some of the rhetoric we definitely don't align with.
All right, in closing, we have just 1 minute. How do the Igbo people come together? I hear things allegedly that, oh, there's no unity. And, you know, if there's unity, the Igbo tribe would grow, you know, but there's no synergy. What kind of synergies and united fora should they be charting? What causes should they be charting that would be in their best interest?
That's what they said, but the Igbos came out overwhelmingly to vote PDP this election. Not bad for people that are not united.
But they were not voting for them. They were not voting for an Igbo person. That's what they're saying. You know, soon the zoning is going to, the zoning for the presidency will soon come to the east. And when it does come, do we see a united voice, or are we going to see a house that is divided against itself again?
Initially, it will start like a house that is divided. But when the candidates have been selected, I can assure you that they would stand behind the person.
And also, I must say that the Ohanese has shown leadership, and it was part of its galvanizing that actually more or less swayed people to, you know, go a particular route. And I think we begin to see some coalescing towards a goal. And also don't forget that Igbos, like you said, they're basically Republicans. So we are quite individualistic to a very large extent. But so, you know, trying to then galvanize them is always a challenge. But I think with some understanding and with some of the things that are going on, I believe we're getting there. There will be challenges, definitely.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you very much to you, Emeka Nwadioke and Obi Ajegbo, legal practitioners, for speaking with us. And somewhat, you are from the tribe that we're discussing today, so it was really interesting. So there is hope for Nigeria. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a look at some of our political packages for today, and we'll be right back before you can hear my take.
The governor-elect of Borno State, Professor Babagana Umara, has promised to tackle insecurity, address youth unemployment, and work towards providing adequate infrastructure in the state. Speaking as he received his certificate of return from the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, alongside members of the State House of Assembly elect, Professor Umara also promised to build on the successes of his predecessor governor, Kassim Shettima.
It is a duty of the Commission, and it is in compliance with the provisions of Section 75 of the Electoral Act 2010 as amended.
The clamor of the entire people of Borno State is for them to return home. Inshallah, we shall complete all the ongoing reconstruction and rehabilitation program of this administration, embark on other construction processes, so that we shall rebuild more ravaged communities, so that people shall return to their homeland. I've already said during my presentation or remark that I shall build upon the solid foundation laid by His Excellency the Executive Governor of Borno State, with a view to moving the state forward. But most importantly, we have to address the root cause of the Boko Haram, which include but not limited to basic literacy, unemployment, social injustice, climate change and environmental degradation, drug abuse, indiscipline, corruption, among others.
The Independent National Electoral Commission has issued certificates of return to Plateau State Governor Simon Lalong and Deputy Governor-elect Professor Sonny Theoden and all lawmakers-elect. INEC head of voter education in the state, Osaritin Imahiyerobo, said that the commission had set up a committee with him as the chairman to work on the modalities for a successful presentation of the certificates of return to the newly elected politicians in Jos.
Fellow citizens, now that politicking, campaigns and elections are over, let me assure you that our resolve to build on our past achievements of peaceful coexistence is non-negotiable.
That a party or candidate decides to go to court is not bad, because the flip side is to want to slug it out violently. And any process that will lead to loss of lives and property is undemocratic.
Well, I've appealed to them to come and join hands with me, that the government is very large. There's opportunity for everybody. I did it before and I'm still going to continue. Those who contested elections, put in their best, are not going to go in vain. We'll do our best to put them and then to carry everybody along in this government.
It's time for my take. Now, Nigeria and its democracy, for some people, they would say it should have come of age. For some others, they say it's nascent, it's growing. Let's give it some time so that we can get to where other democracies are today. But then the question is, aren't we supposed to learn from these experiences, or should we wait to make the same mistakes and then we can grow? Well, the choice to grow is ours, and the choice to make is yours. So let's start making those choices today, because it starts with you. I am Mary Anacone, and I have had the pleasure of having you on Plus Politics. I'll see you tomorrow again at 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Have a good evening.